How's it going, everybody? Today we're going to talk about God. This is something that I'm very passionate about. Um, it's a tough subject because people have a lot of opinions on what God is, right? Now, this is just my perspective of what God is. I still believe that there are other gods, aka your other religions, Christianity, Hinduism, whatever, right? Now I also think you can find God through the other gods, but we're talking about the end-all be-all one, the one above all, if you will, the infinity and the nothing, right, at the same time. So I guess let's just explain first how I kind of came to the conclusion of what it is. In majority of religious texts, they all say God, yourself, others, or they'll be like the path to enlightenment is to not interact, or they'll say all these different things, right? But the idea of it initially, I think, is to look within yourself if you want to find answers to anything, right? Not just God, but just anything in general. So you have to look inside yourself. So you got to think, okay, what do I do, right? And that led me kind of into the idea of, I'll give you an example of like waking up from sleep. It's the initial consciousness that you have, right? And then, everything might come rushing back of like what you did the day before, or what's been on your mind a lot, whatever, right? But we're talking about that initial, when you wake up, boom, consciousness, right? I think that's what God experienced. So the Big Bang, if you will, the snap, the initial fire to the cardinal, whatever, it has, boom, awareness, right? And then it tried to see what it can do with the awareness. So I believe that there was nothing outside of itself. And when I say nothing, I don't mean just black. I don't mean like space. I mean literally nothing. And so we can't imagine what nothing is because we are something in this current moment. But I think there was nothing outside of itself. And it, boom, just became aware. So if you want to think about it like an orb or a dot, I think that helps. So then the only thing it could do was go inside itself. So when it went inside itself, that's created the two. So the initial boom was like the one, but the going inside itself is the two. So that's the idea that we have what is space, not outer space or whatnot, but space, just space in general, right? And it realized it can go inside itself and do anything it wanted to limitlessly. It's the same way that we can, right? We can imagine ourselves flying off a building, whatever have you. But we can't do that here, right? We're limited by this realm's laws, I guess. But we can do anything inside our heads, right? So then when it went inside itself, it did what it did. I think that was the initial blueprint of emotions. Not only emotions, but it created places there too. And emotions just lead you to the places, I guess. So like anger, I think that's a place. You can go be angry, right? You can go to the place that is angry. Love, same thing. It's a place. Same with any other emotion or idea, right? And things can mix and mingle and create, more cities, if you will, on top of that. But I think it created the initial blueprint of the entire embodiment of that emotion. So imagine feeling the ultimate fear or the ultimate anger, or whatever, right? I think it did all those things. And I don't think it meant to, but it experienced it. And because it experienced it, then we have to experience it. I don't think that it wanted that. It didn't want people to be in fear. It didn't want people to be in anger, right? But it just happened. I think it was like childlike at first. The same that, when we're a child and we have to experience touching our hand on the stove and, oh, that burned me. So we learned, right? But it created these things that we have, and it didn't mean to. And then after that, went through its cycle, I think it stepped outside of itself. So then that's the three. Third person perspective, thinking outside the box, what have you, right? And then when it did that, I think it left a trace of itself still there. So now imagine, like, there's the thing that you were is now not the thing you are, and you stepped outside of it to then observe that thing. Like, it's probably mind-blowing, but that's what I think happened, right? And then that created the first Trinity, or three, 1, 2, 3, if you will. Or if you want to say, like, 0 is the nothing. So, 1, 2, 3 is the awareness, space, and then third person, right? So, and then it did it again 3 more times, but that's neither here or there because it's just a group of 3. So it just literally did the same thing again, right? That's why, like, everything is always 3. It's always going to, 3 always multiplies into a, form of 3. So 6, which is 2 3s or whatever, right? That's why no number goes past 9, which there's 3 groups to then get to 9, whatever, right? There's so many different ways you can see it, but this is just one of them, right? So I think that all happened, and I think that it left traces of itself, obviously, and then fast forward in time, we get to kind of like where we're at now, right? So I think it left a blueprint of like what everything is, right? Now, I don't think we could ever be God because God is the space that we're in. So I don't think anything can go outside of God. If you go outside of God, that is nothing, right? And then I think you can get farther away from God, but I don't think you can get outside of God, because if you went outside of God, you'd be nothing. I do think there are other gods that try to play him. Or I hate saying him too. It's a tick. It's just something that got like programmed that calling it a him is not it. And then divine is like overly used, and universe, but I don't think there's just one universe, so that's kind of pointless. But I hope you know what I'm saying when I say it. But sorry for a little tangent there. Now, I think that some of the entities that did become aware and such tried to do the same thing that God did, right? And that's why there's like spiritual warfare, I guess, of like gaining followers and accumulating energy is like the simplest form of that, I guess. The way they accumulate energy is by having you pray to them, having you worship them, thinking of them even, giving them your time, effort, whatever, emotions. And those things are sucking that all in, right? And that's what allows them to sustain their place and or grow to a bigger place. I think that all the laws and rules, that all happened after. I think those are created by other things. God may have set the blueprint and done it initially, but then other things took over that and learned how to do it, and that's why we get deceived. We get deceived into believing these other things, right? It's it's so tough because then it's like, well, how do you know which one's real and what's not? And ultimately, just, if you feel like it's real to you and, in the inside, then obviously maybe that's the path you should go, right? Don't be stubborn about it either, right? Be like, oh no, Jesus is the only way, what have you, right? But that being said, I also believe that there is no good and bad, right? I don't think God deemed things good or bad initially. It experienced things, and then it liked things more than others, right? It really liked love, obviously, because it's such a powerful emotion that we have now. I think we can use different emotions to get out of different places as well, but that's for another video. What I'm saying too is, like, giving God some grace here, because I don't think it knew. I don't think it knew what it was doing. It experienced what it was doing, right? Same way that we do, right? That's why it's not watching you. It's not watching your life. It's not doing bad things to you. You're just experiencing it in a different way than it did, but has the same principles, Who's to say how far down or up or sideways we are in this realm compared to the other ones? But you are a individual at this point in time. God is a accumulation of all individuals and none of the individuals. So God can come through anything, everything, but it can also come through nothing, right? So it's the idea that God is dead, yes, but God is also everything. So it's always a double meaning, I guess. But ultimately, I think of it as the parameter, I guess, this space that encompasses all other spaces. So it's the initial masculine, feminine. It was, both, and we just reside in it, right? Now, here's the question that I have. Is it bad to do the same things that the other gods are doing? That's super debatable. That's a question that I always have on my mind, because it seems like there's rules to this that are hidden in plain sight, I guess. So it's like the idea of, okay, if I say I'm going to steal your car and you do nothing about it, but then I go steal your car, I don't have any karma for that because I told you. It's like that. It's a very stupid example, but that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like everything's like written in plain sight, tells you the rules, so therefore it's okay, right? And if you're negligent to not look at the rules, or when you sign the contract, then that's your own fault. Which, it's awful to me. Even though I have the idea that there is no good and bad, or morality is kind of just a figment of our imagination, I still have my own personal morals, right? My own personal good and bads, which I think everybody should. And Izname, come here, buddy. Izname, come. He wants to go outside. Izname. Good boy. Good boy. Oh, the muscle man. The muscle man. Now, okay, also, another concerning thing for me is, okay, obviously is it good to do, what everyone else is doing? Should you? Can you? Right? But also, what is God doing currently? But the thing is like, we think of time as like linear, so whatever I do tomorrow is future, right? But I don't think time doesn't work like that. time, happened then, now, and is going to, right? So, but it's all the same thing. So, it's a moot point to ask what it's doing now, in my opinion. Because you can be like, oh yeah, at this time in its life, it's probably just, who knows? Actually, you know what? Who knows what it's doing now? It could be observing us all. It could be trying to decide whether to destroy itself. It could try to expand itself. It could be trying to figure out the answer of why it exists as the same as we are, right? It could be doing so many things, right? But the same thing it's doing now is the same thing it's always done. So, it's kind of sad. I feel bad for it. In a way, I still kind of pity like what we're doing too. It's the same thing of like, why are we on this fucking planet? What is my purpose in life? It's the same thing, but I think that it's experiencing that too. I think it has way more experiences. I think it's gone to a point of nirvana, just being at peace. I think it's gone to a point of being angry and wanting to destroy it all. I think that's literally why we have these stories of like, Shiva and all these other things. But I don't think it knows. It wants to. I don't think it can, and I think it knows that too. I don't think it's all-knowing, but everything we know, it knows. So anything you can imagine exists. Anything that you can't imagine, obviously, is in the nothingness, right? And trying to imagine something that you can't imagine, that's what nothingness is, I guess. That's the simplest way I can explain it. I have so many questions, and obviously I'm open to interpretations. I don't discredit any one religion. I think they'll have value and meaning. I think if they get you to where you want to be, if they do something for your life, I think that's awesome. But I really love to question it. And even if you think my analysis of it is bullshit, let me know too. I would like to see why. I just kind of want to open a conversation to that. I'm still of the mind of what I told you, that I can't at this point in time think of a better explanation of what it is. I think we can get way deep into texts and religions and stuff that point us to the same answers that every other text has, or even things that I said in this video. But I don't know. Let me know, guys. Hope you enjoyed.